So my question was, how fragile am I? And originally it was a look at how I feel about racism. And I was going to have it be a conversation, but I've decided that I'm just going to give you the contents of the book. It may be uncomfortable, and it probably should be, because we're talking about something that's pretty potent. Author Robin DiAngelo defines white fragility as a state experienced by white people in which even a minimum amount of racial stress becomes intolerable, triggering a range of defensive moves and sometimes leading to a total meltdown. It's a fear that can quickly turn into active harm. And here's how it shows up: getting angry, defensive, or afraid, believing you are being shamed, crying or falling silent, choosing to leave a conversation, calling the authorities when you're uncomfortable, deleting posts on social media, which is just another form of running away, taking the position of victim, and defending yourself, but not hearing or understanding what's really going on, and trying to convince BIPOC. That means Black, Indigenous, People of Color. That is a word, if you have not heard it, BIPOC. Try to convince BIPOC that they're just imagining things, that they're taking it all too seriously and just reading too much into it. Most people don't know, or don't even want to know, what to do about racism, especially if it becomes inconvenient or uncomfortable. And this might make you uncomfortable too. It's meant to wake you up. White privilege is like having, oh, that's my favorite one. Did you just say race? White privilege is like having an invisible package of unearned assets that I can count on cashing in each day while remaining oblivious to it. It's like an invisible, weightless knapsack of special provisions, assurances, tools, maps, guides, code books, passports, visas, clothes, compass, emergency gear, and especially blank checks. White privilege is just a form of white supremacy because it's still based on the laboring and suffering of others to gain a better standing in society. Basically, it boils down to this: there's white people and everybody else. This is a system we've all been born into, and it's designed to keep us asleep and unaware of what our privilege, protection, and power has cost people who don't look like us. This might make us feel guilty, angry, frustrated, but we can't change our skin color to stop receiving these privileges any more than BIPOC can change their skin color to stop receiving racism. Note that white privilege actually extends to biracial, multiracial, and white passing people of color just because they have lighter skin color. It's all about the color of the skin, which is kind of mind-blowing when you think about it, because we are born into this world and here we are. You're white or you're not. Next, I want to show you, these are considered the whitest people in the world. They are from Estonia. Here are some examples of white privilege. I can be in the company of people of my race most of the time. When hearing about national privilege or civilization, I am told that my people made it what it is. I can go into a bookshop and find writing of my race represented, into a supermarket and find foods that fit my cultural traditions, into a hair salon and find someone who can deal with my hair. And I don't have to educate or warn my children to be aware of their physical safety every day of their lives. If I'm pulled over or audited, I know I haven't been singled out because of my race. If a situation is going badly, it's probably not because of my race. And if I need legal or medical help, my color will not work against me. What we see as observable physical differences among people of different races are actually just different genotype and phenotype expressions among one race, the human race. And despite our differences in skin color, hair texture, and other physical traits, genetically we are all the same. Many will argue that in today's world where chattel slavery, I hadn't heard that term, chattel slavery, of African people, race-based discrimination in employment, and school segregation are all now illegal. So there is no basis for white privilege anymore, right? Wrong. Making something illegal does not change a belief in superiority. White supremacy is a racist ideology based upon the belief that white people are superior to people of other races and therefore should be dominant over all other races, sort of have dominion, if you will. I've heard that it's mentioned in the Bible, and that hypocritical Christians often use the comment of slavery and keep your slaves in order as a reason for white supremacy. White supremacy is a scary phrase that brings up horrible images of Hitler and the Holocaust, the Ku Klux Klan, and skinheads, which have nothing to do with us. This is George Wallace, governor of Alabama, and his sign, his finger sign, is now considered a sign of the Klan. This is the new head of the Klan, Mr. David Duke, a very active political man. It may seem like racism and white supremacy, thought by many to be over, are resurfacing today, but the truth is they've never gone away. It's like finding out you've had a deadly virus all your life, but didn't know it. How ironic to be in the midst of an equally deadly global virus right now, one that does not discriminate, but targets minorities and highlights the vast race and class inequities in the US. I won't even go into the details of that. You heard it, you know it. This system of white supremacy, oh, by the way, and these are the modern Ku Klux Klan. This system of white supremacy was not created by anyone alive today. I'll repeat that. This was not created by anyone alive today, but it is maintained and upheld by everyone who holds white privilege, whether or not they know it, want it, or agree with it. It's built on the assumption that the white race is in danger of extinction, drowning by a rising tide of non-white people who are controlled and manipulated by Jews. Now that's almost ludicrous, but you see it every day. White supremacists believe that almost any action they take is justified if it will save the white race. Imagine Black, Indigenous people of color have been at the receiving end of never-ending discrimination, injustices, and aggressions for centuries around the world, and only since 1492 in North America. Please note at this point, this is not personal growth work designed to make us feel good about ourselves. When we talk about racism, we're talking about people's lives every day. The purpose of this book, of this work, is the healing and restored dignity of people of color. Here's a poem from Tony Cade Bambara. Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well? Just so you're sure, sweetheart, and ready to be healed, because wholeness is no trifling matter. A lot of heavy when you're well. I'm going to read that again. Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well? Just so you're sure, sweetheart, and ready to be healed, because wholeness is no trifling matter. A lot of heavy when you're well. This takes us to something I was unaware of. I've been unaware of so much. And this one is called tone policing. Yes, tell me how you feel, but don't say it too harshly or too loudly or show any anger, because then I cannot and will not hear you. Tone policing is a tactic used to silence BIPOC by focusing on the tone of what is being said rather than actual content. BIPOC are expected to pander to white gaze, the lens through which white people see others, and to be alert at all times to the comfort level of that white person when talking about racism. Tone policing can be unspoken and is experienced by Black people and people of color as a constant psychic drain. For example, a white person's expression of anger is often seen as righteous, whereas a BIPOC's anger is often seen as aggressive and dangerous. Nowhere is this illustrated more than on the on-court and off-court treatment of tennis star Serena Williams, who is consistently judged and criticized for her appearance, her clothes, her actions, and her words, unlike her fellow male and white female players. Tone policing also occurs when BIPOC don't conform to white norms of communication, such as being too loud, using AAVE, which stands for African American Vernacular English, or not adhering to standard English usage. This just happened on my Facebook page between a white woman I knew 20 years ago. She was overly concerned with the correct English grammar of a Black executive who happens to be a client of mine. And he was totally shocked at her shallow reaction to his impassioned comments. He was standing up for women, and she was saying he didn't spell things correctly. He refused to be policed and said so much. She disappeared, and he apologized to me, which brought me to tears. Policing is just another way of keeping non-whites in line and disempowered, as in, white knows best. White silence. It's about staying silent in order to hold on to that white privilege. I'm okay with the way things are because they don't affect me. And besides, I enjoy my benefits. Examples of staying silent include making excuses, changing the subject, or leaving the room when somebody makes racist jokes or comments. When we see discrimination at our workplace, because we don't want to talk about racism, for standing up for BIPOC family and friends, and for not calling out people who are tone policing. I love this. Chelsea Handler says, 2 Chinese guys were arrested in Berlin for making Nazi salutes. Wouldn't it be nice to have laws here for people who think racism is funny? Things that are not funny: racism, sexism, ableism, classism, sizeism, rape culture, sexual assault, Islamophobia, transphobia, anti-Semitism, bullying, the Holocaust, and modern-day genocide. Newsflash, if you are laughing at something that belittles the systemic oppression of marginalized groups, you're in the wrong. It's called awareness. Fucking educate yourself. White superiority. You didn't think it could get worse, but it just keeps getting right there, man. Like, here we are. Superiority is described as situated higher up, of higher rank, quality, or importance. Hold it, I need a sip of water. White superiority stems directly from white supremacy's belief that people with white or white passing skin are better than and therefore deserve to be dominant over people with color in their skin. We've been conditioned since childhood to believe in white superiority through the way our history is taught, the way race is discussed, and how BIPOC students were treated differently than us in school. We have been taught that white superiority through institutional curricula that favor a white-based narrative, through the lack of representation of BIPOC in textbooks, and in the way these institutions handle acts of racism. We have been conditioned by media that continues to reinforce superiority through an overrepresentation of white celebrity and leadership, the cultural appropriation of BIPOC fashion, language, and customs, the narrative of the white savior. More to come on this guy. Many of us, hold on, I gotta turn the page. Many of us work within industries that uphold white superiority through a lack of representation of non-whites in leadership positions, inclusion and diversity policies based on optical allyship, another term I hadn't heard, and human resources policies, implicit and explicit, that tone police and marginalize non-white employees. I love this. Next is white exceptionalism. You can't mean me. Why, I voted for Obama. I have black friends. I've had non-white partners. My kids play with non-white kids. I don't even see color. When you talk about racism and white supremacy, you're talking about those other white people, not me. I'm one of the good ones. This illustrates the belief that I, as a person holding white privilege, am exempt from the effects, benefits, and conditioning of white supremacy, and therefore the work of anti-racism does not apply to me. And that belief makes me dangerous because I cannot see my own complicity, and I will not listen when it is reflected back to me. Color blindness. I don't see color. I don't even see you as black. I don't care if a person is black, white, green, yellow, purple, or blue. White people actually think it's a compliment when they say they don't see a black person. So if I act like I don't see color, I won't do anything racist. And if I teach my children to not see color, then I can create a whole new generation who won't be racist, right? The deeper message here is, who you are does not matter, and I do not see you. Hold it. And I do not see you for who you are. I am choosing to minimize and erase the impact of your skin color, your hair pattern, your accent, languages, cultural practices, and spiritual traditions as a Black, Indigenous person of color existing within white supremacy. Unfortunately, the problem doesn't just go away because whites refuse to see it. If there are no racists, then how come racism continues to exist? Sadly, most whites insist that minorities, especially blacks, are really the ones responsible for whatever race problem we have in this country. As such, they publicly denounce blacks for playing the race card, demanding unnecessary race-based programs such as affirmative action, and for crying racist whenever they are simply being criticized by whites. Need I say more on that one? White people think Jesus was white. Jesus was probably black and certainly Middle Eastern. Most whites believe that if blacks and other minorities would just stop thinking about the past, work harder, complain less, and be more like white people, then we could all get along and make America great again. This is a particularly insidious way for whites to pretend that their privilege is fiction. Anti-blackness. Anti-blackness. Hold it. Anti-blackness paints black people as inferior in all ways, except the ways that can be used by white people for white gain. This term is used to specifically describe the unique discrimination, violence, and harms imposed on and impacting black people. I was going to put a picture here of Black Lives Matter, but these two little babies said much more than that. Whoa. Come on. This is a quote by Susan Sontag, and it's very strong, and it hit me right between the eyes. Anti-blackness refers to very specific blackness. Black women, for example. And this beautiful photograph is of a tribe in Africa, which is the blackest people on earth. And if you don't think that is beautiful, I don't know. I am so stunned by that photo and those women. We black women know what it means to love ourselves in a world that hates us. Malcolm X famously called black women the most disrespected, unprotected, and neglected people in America, an attitude that applies outside America as well. Black women bring up all kinds of feelings in both whites and non-black people: fear, awe, envy, disdain, anger, desire, confusion, pity, jealousy, and superiority, to name only a few. And black women are either superhumanized and put on pedestals as queens, or dehumanized and unworthy of the care and attention afforded to all white women. Some of these core stereotypes include Mammy, Aunt Jemima, Jezebel, Sapphire, and of course, the strong black woman, who is often seen as an aggressive adversary, a sassy sidekick, or the devotee to white women. Oops, sorry. One example: the approval and disregard of black style and beauty in the past has now been approved and appropriated as long as it's on white bodies. It is now an expectation for black women to bear the weight of the emotional labor of dismantling white supremacy, treatment that has been compounded by their marginalization of sexism. From negative stereotypes that trap women in a one-dimensional imagination to the way their bodies have been treated more like animals than humans, anti-blackness against black women is killing them. psychologically, spiritually, and physically. Specifically.
It's 8 o'clock.
Okay, I'm at Black Men. Do you guys want to take a break? If so.
Well, it's 8 o'clock, so let's take a break. 10 minutes, be back by 10 after 8.
Great.
Thank you, Nita.
Okay.
Hi, Nita. It's Renee. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Any chance you could scroll back to the photograph of the African women? I wanted to get a screenshot.
Oh, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Renee, this will be recorded too, so you'll get a copy of the recording.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes, indeed.
I tell you, it's very hard for me to be doing this with you guys. You know, I think of you, Jasmine and Hyacinth, and I read these and it just brings me to tears. So I'm trying to stay really like, okay, now.
You're doing great.
Thank you. I know I'm reading and I'm
world.
kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
being the white woman talking about this stuff is kind of embarrassing too. But I figured white people will listen to white people maybe. Okay. Now, of course, we are all the other white people. And we know that. We are the other white people.
You're doing great.
Nita, I want to thank you personally for that shout out. We love you. You can do nothing to make me uncomfortable. I'm so grateful that you feel even the need to do this. You see the importance of bringing this issue front to us, then we can share it. What happened?
Yes.
Nothing.
With others. I want is the person that wrote the book is it a woman?
She is, her name is Layla Saad, S-A-A-D. She is a Black Muslim woman living in Dubai.
Okay.
And she's from England. She's English.
Okay.
And the foreword of the book is by Renee or Robin DiAngelo. So that's why I read it, because reading a book by a white woman about white fragility, I wanted to hear, you know, a more connected point of view.
And you've also given me the idea of a topic that I'll share with, I guess, Mary Grace, and to decide if they'll have it there. But it's yeah, this is great. I'm really grateful that I'm hearing this, and I'm definitely interested in the book. And I love the way you express anything you do, which is so thoroughly, and you really get the point across. And for that, I appreciate you greatly.
Nita, can you please scroll back a couple more?
Sure.
African women. There we go.
Are they beautiful?
Oh,
Yeah,
my goodness.
Called,
We are beautiful.
I mean,
how are you?
all women are beautiful, but somebody's never
so
seen.
are you.
Thank you.
I wonder where this picture came from. It's beautiful.
I can find out. There's a tribe in Africa. It starts with an A. It's like Akanando or something on that order, and I probably mangled it, but that was also one of the reasons it's like, people. Skin color. That's the most shallow shit in the world. Wait till we get to Black Men. I got a surprise for everybody in there, all the ladies. Even though it's
get them, Nita.
huh?
Get them. It's wonderful to actually. It was worth waking up to this morning.
Oh, thank you. You
I
know,
really missed it.
I didn't want to just be reading this, because I've told people in Master Circle before, I don't memorize well. So I always use notes. And I knew I was going to be doing a lot of reading. And I thought, you know, just sitting and listening to somebody read, it's like, oh, hum. And I thought, hey, wait a minute. I know how to do this. I'm going to illustrate it with great photography. I got all of this online, just pulled it off, you know, like bam, 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 bam. And I had tons more. I mean, I had to narrow it down to like 70 slides.
But
So
look at all the work you put in on this.
we're about halfway through.
Wow.
Oh yeah, no, I said to Mary Grace, I said, you know, I called her at 10 o'clock and said, well, I only got a couple of more hours to go, but I ought to make sure this works. So, you
It
know.
looks great, Nita. It absolutely looks great. The imagery perfectly complements the reading that you're doing from the book.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I agree, Nita. I'm enjoying this so much. Thank you so
Aw,
much.
Thank you. Good to see you, Laura.
I know. Good to see you too.
Where are you
Nita.
now?
I'm in upstate New York right now, close to Saratoga Springs, but I will be hitting the road to move back to LA right around August 10th. So
Yay!
yeah. So
Welcome. We can't wait to see you again.
I can't wait to see all of you.
Well, we're seeing you now, aren't we?
I
We
know.
may never see more of you, but at least you'll be in an LA place.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
When we can get together again, that'll be nice.
Oh, I
Nita,
can't wait.
Nita, you could read Mary Had a Little Lamb, and it would be engaging and delightful and full of emotion. I mean, really, I can't believe you're not an actress.
Oh, thank you, Melanie.
Agreed, Melanie, agreed.
Yeah, and illustrated with a picture of a lamb too, I'm sure.
You guys, the lady that just came on and said she was traveling on April 10th just reminded me that my mother's birthday is August 10th and she's in New York. So tell me the best way, if you're interested, to be on the Zoom surprise celebration that'll be happening on Monday, the 10th at 5 p.m. How's the best way to get you the information?
Okay. You mean all of us?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess whoever's interested.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of you. All of it. Yeah.
Should I send it to Mary Grace
Yeah,
or Linda or who?
Very good.
Mary Grace.
Okay, thank you.
Where was your mother from? Hyacinth?
Hyacinth.
Where was your mother from in New York?
You got on.
Oh, I think
yourself,
yeah,
Hyacinth.
you're muted.
Okay, my mother was born in Jamaica, West Indies. She lives in Harlem, New York.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Great. Oh, so she's still here.
yes, she's there now.
Okay,
She's
great.
planning to visit here with us in LA the end of September.
Oh,
But I'm
wonderful.
gonna
I'd love to
celebrate her.
meet her if
Oh, yeah, she's awesome.
it's okay.
Oh yeah, so I'll include, like I said, I'll send the information to Mary Grace and hopefully you'll be included to whoever she sends it to.
Sounds great. I look forward to it.
Okay, great. And what's your name?
My name is Tara Rauchi. Yeah.
Okay, Tara. And we look forward to maybe meeting up with you when you come to LA.
I would love that very much.
Yeah, is it your first time or did you live here before?
No, yeah, I lived in LA for 27 years. And
Oh,
then
okay.
I just moved back home just over a year ago to be the main caregiver for a family member who's like a mother figure to me.
Oh,
And
okay, cool.
she unfortunately passed on Valentine's Day. So
So,
yeah, so I'm gonna head back, but
okay.
yeah,
Well, we look forward to welcoming you back to Los Angeles.
me too. I can't wait.
Yeah. What part of town are you gonna be in when you come here?
Sherman Oaks.
Oh, okay.
Sherman Oaks. Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you when you get here.
All right, I'm in Sherman Oaks too.
You are. Who is?
Yep.
Bonnie.
Bonnie.
Yay. I'm Ventura and let's see, what I'm there. It's been a minute since I've been there, but Ventura and kind of near the Ralphs. Wait, is it?
Oh, Ventura and Hazeltine?
Or Baja Fresh is on the corner.
Ah,
Baja Fresh is on the corner. I'll
There
give
are
you,
several. There are several Ralphs on Ventura Boulevard.
Okay.
There's one at Hazeltine. There's one in Studio City at Laurel Canyon.
okay. Well,
There's
I'll
one
get
that-
more info for you.
I'm near Magnolia and Hazeltine.
Okay. Great.
Baja Fresh is at Cedros in Sherman Oaks. Hi, this is Patricia. I lived in Sherman Oaks for more than 20 years.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, I used to live there, but not now. But I think Baja Fresh is at Cedros, I think.
Okay. All right.
But
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing Ralph's there.
So I don't know how
So
many.
you're near Van Nuys Boulevard then.
Yes, or I don't know. I just know I'm like off of Ventura. I know that much.
Okay.
But I'm still semi-new to the area. So, yeah.
So it's 10 after 8. I don't know how many of us we have back yet, or if we have our speaker back.
No, she seems to be gone right now.
Well, I guess we can continue then. Thanks, Bill.
It's a great topic. I'm really happy to hear it's the national conversation right now after, because of Black Lives Matter, because of the coronavirus. And recently it's come to my attention about Black women being unacknowledged in so many important ways. Like apparently the Black Lives Movement was started by women. And there were a couple of things. The Stonewall Jackson, what was that called? Stonewall, that thing about LGBT, in New York, the
Stonewall Uprising.
Yeah, that was initiated by Black women. And there were quite a few other, the Me Too movement apparently was from Black women. They started it. And a couple of there was the civil rights movement in the early 60s when the Million Man March or something went to Washington and Martin Luther King spoke and John Lewis spoke. Well, there was a woman who was very instrumental in organizing it and organizing the Freedom March of all those people that went down south. It was a Black woman who did it, and there's a photograph of those speakers in Washington, D.C., Martin Luther King and John Lewis, and then you see this woman, but she wasn't allowed to speak. And one of the points was that sadness is that Black men keep Black women down. And you can imagine that the struggle for Black men to be acknowledged in a white dominated world, that the first people that they're going to victimize are the women. And so these women haven't been acknowledged even among Black people, let alone that wonderful movie that was made about the Nassau women, all the Black women that did the math before computers.
Hidden Figures.
Remember that incredible movie?
Hidden Figures.
Yeah, Hidden Figures. And they were another group that finally are getting acknowledged for this incredibly important work, all these social justice movements and issues that have made a huge difference for white people as well as people of color. But and I hope that soon this is getting turned around. It's as we speak, I think nationwide and internationally. And all the talk of reparations is becoming so much more prominent now that, and I give Marianne Williamson some credit for that, but it has been in motion and it will continue to make greater headlines.
Yeah.
My reaction to her speak, I always have a lot of sadness, as she Nita mentioned too. It's just the overwhelming awareness of the suffering and I just have this kind of huge wave of empathy that I kind of feel powerless about, because like I get it that I'm born into it and it wasn't of my making, but I'm a part of it just by the victimization of my being white almost. And it's just this overwhelming.
I'm glad we're having the conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really important. And what can I do? You know, what can I, as a single white woman, what can I do?
We'll find out.
Okay, Nita, there you go.
Here she is. Let's go.
Shall we?
Yes.
Why not?
Let's go.
Okay.
All right. Now, remember, we're talking about anti-Blackness, specifically against Black men. The 1915 silent epic, Birth of a Nation, portrayed Black men who were white actors in blackface as unintelligent and sexually aggressive towards white women. This was a fabricated propaganda message that was disseminated again and again to justify the violent treatment of Black men by white men to protect the innocence and purity of their white women. A century later, this stereotype of the aggressive Black man still lives in the collective white psyche, as witnessed in the recent Cooper event in Central Park. But tragically, in the wrongly accused Central Park 5 teenage Black boys in 1989 who spent between 6 and 13 years in jail for sexual assault crimes they did not commit. A phrase that comes up again and again, regardless of where in the world you are, is, "I fear Black men." When Black men's sexuality is not feared, it is often fetishized. They are often seen as sexual conquests, there to satisfy white appetites with their allegedly exaggerated genitalia. They are sometimes seen as a means to an end, a way to produce biracial babies, to feel Black as in edgier and cooler, or a way to anger parents through intimacy with a Black man. Like the stereotype of the mammy, I'm off here a little bit. I'm just going to move. There is the Black man we all love. And here we go into, Spike Lee has expressed frustration with the myth of the magical Negro. And you can actually Google the magical Negro, a supporting Black character who comes to the aid of the white protagonist with special insights or mystical powers. We're thinking here, Sidney Poitier, Morgan Freeman, even Barack Obama. Like the stereotype of the mammy, the magical Negro positions Black men as otherworldly, but ultimately disposable characters who exist only to selflessly soothe and serve white people. I especially love this. This is from the Huffington Post. This is a series of shots of young men graduating from university, rather than the stereotypical mugshots of young Black men. If you'll see here, Carlos Thomas has his charge in business management. And then we have Christopher with musical theater, and Jared with criminal justice, Kaylin with intelligence, Christian with marketing, and Ryan with engineering, even though they misspelled engineering. But I thought, I was very struck by that. Examples of Black Negro and stereotyping is stereotyping Black men as sexually aggressive, violent, less intellectual, lazy, and criminal. Here's a big one. Assuming that their financial excess only comes from being an athlete, an entertainer, or a drug dealer. And here's one that's so subtle. An example of anti-Blackness is being surprised when a Black man is actually intelligent, funny, tender, wise, and multidimensional. There's my gift for the ladies. Now you want to talk about two men of color. Lenny Kravitz is considered the coolest man on the planet, and his very close friend by marriage, okay, what's his name? I've gone blank. Jason Momoa. And I just am.
Jason Momoa.
Momoa.
He's Hawaiian. Mhm.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to let y'all sit with that for a minute. Men, you can take it, do something else. Black children. All Black people were Black children. Very cute in the white imagination until they grow up. And then they're not so cute anymore. Black boys are perceived as older and more likely to be guilty than their white peers. Police violence against them is considered justified. We have only to look at, is it Tamir Rice and Trayvon Martin, who were killed because they were seen as Black men who could harm anyone at any moment rather than the young boys they were. Black girls are seen by whites as less innocent and more adult-like than white girls, especially from the ages of 5 to 14. Whites believe that young Black girls need less nurturing, less protection, less support, less comforting, are more independent, know more about adult topics, especially sex. Black children are often pitied in the white imagination, with people wanting to save them, whether from their own Blackness, from their Black parents, who are seen through the white gaze as being inferior in their ability to parent as compared to white parents, which is just another way for white people to affirm themselves as being good. Charlize Theron has adopted 2 African children. And I have several friends who adopted Black children, and those children have had lots of problems because the white parents that adopted them are so fucked up. Pardon my French. Cultural appropriation. Oh, this one's fabulous. This is my favorite part. A dominant culture, read white, adopting, adapting, borrowing, taking, stealing the objects, motifs, symbols, rituals, artifacts, and other cultural elements of a non-dominant or marginalized culture. That relationship includes colonization, land theft, mass kidnapping and enslavement, attempted genocide, forced assimilation, segregation, legalized racial discrimination, and the reinforcement of negative racist stereotypes. Cultural appreciation rather than appropriation is highly doubtful and is just another form of tokenizing and exoticizing while continuing to discard and dehumanize the actual people of the non-dominant culture. Look at this. How gloriously wonderful, until you feel the authenticity of this.
Hmm.
That. Examples of appropriation include fashion, the appropriation of cultural fashion styles, rarely with credit or attribution to the original culture, and the use of blackface symbology. Hair, traditionally African hairstyles worn by non-Black people. Now, anybody see the difference there?
Mm.
Beauty. Whites enhancing physical attributes, meaning thicker lips, rounder hips and thighs, darker skin, whether through tanning or black fishing. Who's heard of black fishing? That's the newest version of blackface, except that it's done for gain rather than shame. And it's where people dye their hair black and get lips pumped and everything, and they want to look black even though they're white. They have their privilege, but now they're cooler. And the spirituality is appropriated, using sacred BIPOC spiritual ceremonies, rituals, iconography, practices, and objects. Wellness, the appropriation of BIPOC traditional wellness practices and healing modalities. Music, the appropriation of Black music styles, often filtered through a white lens, like rap, reggae, soul, R&B, jazz.
Blues.
What?
Blues.
Oh yeah, R&B, rhythm and blues. Cultural holidays and events that inspire practices such as Halloween costumes. They were so awful, I wouldn't even put them on the screen. You know, I came across some pictures that were like, really knock you on your butt. But I said, you know, I don't want to do this because it's exactly what they're saying, you know, because when you show it, it's so horrible. Also appropriating linguistic styles, which is the appropriation of AAVE, again, African American Vernacular English, by non-people for fun. You know, yoga has its roots in India as a highly spiritual practice, but it is now seen as a predominantly white-centered exercise focused largely on physical health and taught by a white person. Native Americans were historically prohibited from practicing their religious practices by laws and government policies. But now, white New Age spirituality took over and financially profits off all these practices with sacred tools, ritual plants, and ceremonial items. This one I just had to throw in there because it's in the news right now. And that is Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, Cream of Wheat, Mrs. Butterworth's. Now these are all created by white people, advertising agencies, to sell to white people. And I received a Facebook post from a real redneck guy going, oh, I can't believe they're getting rid of Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben's. What about us white people? What about the way they make fun of us with hillbilly bread? And I fired back and I said, you know, this is all white people stuff. Black people did not come up with this. So don't give us that bullshit about poor white guys. All right, so next is, white saviorism. Saviorism. That sounds big. No, wait, I forgot. White apathy. I didn't put it in here. This is just a quick paragraph. White apathy is lack of feeling or emotion, lack of interest or concern, indifference, unconcern, passivity, detachment, insensitivity, dispassion, disregard. It's not my problem. I wish racism was not a reality, but they do kind of bring it on themselves, don't they, because of who they are and the way they act. And then there's another one here, which I don't have a title for, which is white centering. When asked, when are you going to write books that aren't about race? Pulitzer and Nobel Prize winner Toni Morrison replied, I've had reviews that accuse me of not writing about white people, as though Black lives had no meaning and no depth without the white gaze. I've spent my entire writing life trying to make sure that the white gaze was not the dominant one in any of my books. In other words, she was being asked when she was going to write books that were not centrally about Black people, therefore outside the interests of white people. When you think about all the movies, the books, oh, we're not on, sorry, I didn't, erase, okay. When you think about all the movies, books, podcasts, television shows, and ads, magazines, wellness spaces, and leaders we come across every day, who is primarily represented? Who is rarely represented or underrepresented? Who is seen and presented as the norm? And who is shown as marginal? Now, white saviorism. This is the belief that people with white privilege who see themselves as superior in capability and intelligence have an obligation to save BIPOC from their supposed inferiority and helplessness. The clearest illustration of this concept is what writer Tehu Cole has called the white savior industrial complex. This term describes the phenomena of well-intentioned white missionaries and volunteers through the business of voluntourism, traveling to countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America to help rescue people of color from their country's poverty and lack of development. So well-meaning, such volunteers often travel to these countries with not much more than their passion and a desire to do good. Little regard is paid to understanding the historical background and cultural context they are entering, or the damage they can do. When the missionaries arrived, the Africans had the land and the missionaries had the Bible. They taught us how to pray with our eyes closed. When we opened them, they had the land and we had the Bible. Which brings us to allyship. Whitney, this is your answer. Allyship is the state or condition of being an ally, a supportive association with another person or group, specifically an association with members of a marginalized or mistreated group to which one does not belong. Allyship is a lifelong process of building relationships based on trust, consistency, and accountability with individuals and our groups of people. It is not self-defined, which means your work and efforts must be recognized by those you are seeking to ally with. Allyship is considered optical. Have you heard of optical allyship? I had not. If the attention is to avoid being called a racist or to receive a reward through social recognition, praise, and acknowledgement. It's optical if the act creates the look of diversity and inclusion, but does not come with any change at a deeper level. If the act is symbolic but not substantive. If the act involves no real risk, performed from the safety of one's comfort zone of white privilege, remaining engaged in white fragility when challenged to truly listen and take guidance. It can show up as individuals and businesses hosting fundraisers and nonprofit projects to rescue struggling BIPOC, or as parents with white privilege wanting to adopt children of color. Though not always the case, it is something to be aware of. In more subtle ways, white saviorism is the person with white privilege speaking over or for BIPOC in the belief that they know better how to say what needs to be said. I'm going to repeat that. White saviorism is the person with white privilege speaking over or for BIPOC in the belief that they know better how to say what needs to be said. Genuine allyship, I think I have that one twice, hold on. Genuine allyship is taking on the struggle as your own, standing up even when you feel scared, transferring the benefits of your privilege to those who lack it, acknowledging that while you too feel pain, this conversation is not about you. Okay, so what can a white person do? Educate yourself. Learn about the history of your country during genocide, enslavement, segregation, mass incarceration, deportation, and other moments of our shared history. Understand what privilege means in terms of pain to your neighbor. Work to help build a society in which all human beings, regardless of skin color, have equal opportunities. Recognize your ancestors' actions in enslaving people and taking advantage of blood labor to create financial capital and wealth. Be part of the process to rebuild and address these injustices. Seek out anti-racist educators and teachers. Attend their classes, courses, workshops, and events. Self-reflection is important, but it is not enough. Find articles, podcasts, books, publication, and other resources to expand your understanding of historic and present time oppression. Show up at meetings, rallies, marches, and fundraisers. Show up, period. Financially support organizations, nonprofits, and political candidates who are working hard for BIPOC rights. Uphold your commitments. Uphold your commitments to living your life with integrity. And live these commitments daily. Thank you.